Land management agencies are facing a critical challenge in the forest as the fire season and the size of wildfires continue to grow. Today on the County Seat, we will look at the Shared Stewardship Agreement between the U.S. Forest Service and Utah. What has it accomplished on the ground, and what are the commitments for the long term? County Seat is next. The County Seat is brought to you this week by Jones & DeMille Engineering, helping to shape your quality of life. Find out more at jonesandemille.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. We are bringing you the show from the state capitol during the legislative session. Very important topics to talk about. For a long time, there's been a discussion from many different sectors about what the heck is going on with our forests. It seems like we just can't stay ahead of the fires. There's damage to resources that are important to local communities. And any kind of commercial activity seems to have been put on pause as we've gone through many years of different Forest Service programs. But now there is something new, and that's what we're going to focus on today. It's called Shared Stewardship, and we will start by taking a look at how these kinds of projects work. Here's Derek Dowsett.
In May of last year, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue and Governor Gary Herbert signed the Shared Stewardship Initiative. The agreement allows the U.S. Forest Service to work with the state to prioritize which projects will best protect communities and watersheds from the impacts of wildfires. The agreement also allows the U.S. Forest Service to use all available tools for active management, including timber sales, mechanical treatments, and prescribed fire. Brian Cottam, the state forester, saw a lot of opportunities within the Shared Stewardship Initiative to help Utah's forests.
The couple of concepts that really appeal to me within shared stewardship is the joint prioritization, the geographic prioritization. What are the most important areas that we should be working in and making those decisions together? And then this whole notion of shared decision making. Well, that's different than what's been done before. Sitting at the table with the Forest Service, identifying where we both agree the work should be done, what kind of work, and making those decisions together. I wouldn't want to pass that up as the state forester.
Identifying the priorities for Utah was straightforward enough because the state already focuses on protecting communities and watersheds from the impacts of unwanted fire. The Shared Stewardship Agreement frees up more resources and cooperation within the U.S. Forest Service to allow projects to get underway sooner. Glenn Wright, a councilman from Summit County, points out there are other benefits of shared stewardship as well.
We have a lot of beetle kill, and some of that beetle kill can be used in timber. That could be used, so we'll be using wood that's essentially dying in our national forest, making room for new growth, and providing an economic stimulus to the area.
We've focused a lot of attention and resources, funding, towards the economic development piece and helping develop businesses and entrepreneurs who want to be doing this kind of work, getting them in a position that they can take advantage of these projects that are coming.
A lot has happened in the 10 months since the agreement was signed. There has already been millions of dollars put into projects on the ground, with commitments from the legislature to continue funding the state's portion of the agreement.
Without a joint operation between the Forest Service, between state forestry, our private landowners, and Summit County, we have no way to get a project like that done.
Honestly, 18 months ago, I would have never thought we would have been this far along. We have a lot of agreement and understanding with the Forest Service. Again, projects are getting done on the ground, and we're just about to roll out the engagement with local government, which is so important for all of us, but me particularly, of having these conversations get down to the local level with county, municipal government, and other partners locally.
So far, the agreement has helped Utah's forests, but there is still a lot of work to do as the state begins involving local communities in establishing priorities for projects across the state. For the County Seat, I'm Derek Dowsett.
Thanks, Derek. We're going to pick up with our panel for a discussion right after this commercial break. You're watching the County Seat. Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today is shared stewardship projects between state government, the U.S. Forest Service, and local communities. Joining us for our conversation, the state forester, Brian Cottam. Thanks for coming back, Brian. Good to see you. Jerry Taylor, who is a commissioner from Garfield County, a county that is very much in its history vested in forestry in Utah. And Nora Rasure, who is the regional forester for the Intermountain region of the U.S. Forest Service. Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you.
I would like to talk about this whole development of shared stewardship. I remember you guys at the county level talking about this being a need 8 years ago. And now we're looking at the projects actually being on the ground. How did we get there?
Shared stewardship is actually an initiative from the Secretary of Agriculture at the federal level. And out west particularly, it's focused on wildfire. And so the initiative was announced about 18 months ago. Shortly thereafter, Nora and I began a conversation about what it means in Utah. The governor and the secretary signed an agreement about a year ago, and we are fortunate to have funding, and projects are now beginning to hit the ground.
And what I like about shared stewardship is that it's been evolving. So we've had a good foundation here in the state where we've been working together at our local communities and at the state level. And I feel like shared stewardship is going to take us to a whole nother level. And I think it does that because it helps us look at things at both a local level, but also then start to look at the state and really think about what are the priorities in the state, what's most important to the public in the state, and then how do we actually work together to address those highest priority needs.
How do you cover the costs of making something like this work? I mean, who's putting money into the pile, and where should we be looking to get money out of to make this all happen?
So I think that's a great change in terms of how we're working together. In the past, we all have had projects and we've been doing them. But with this approach, what we've done is we've decided to jointly identify projects in the highest priority areas, and then put those projects on the table and look at them and see which projects are going to help us meet those priorities. And then what resources do we actually have to put towards the project? So the Forest Service is going to come with funds to put towards those projects. And here in the state legislature has actually appropriated funding to help. And then we have resources within our state or county that, you know, Brian might be able to look at a project and say, I have someone that can help with that project. So we're pooling not only our funding, but our staff so that we can address those highest priority projects.
Chad, this agreement is between the federal government and the state, but in my opinion, we need to expand that out and make sure that the counties have some say in this and can give some input with this, that we can become a partner with the state and with the federal government to make sure these projects are done. We can help maybe prioritize some of those to see that we take care of our watersheds and our communities. You
yourself have been, as one of the county commissioners, been very active in talking about finding a way to make, you know, good, healthy forests sustainable and help local communities. Do you see this project as addressing some of those a little bit?
Yes, I think if we can work together and prioritize, especially when you look at communities along the Wasatch Front and in rural Utah, we know we have a problem with some watersheds that we need to protect and take care of. We have they call it the fire shed. It's what will happen if there's a catastrophic fire, what will it damage, what will those things do. We need to look at all of that and protect our communities. Look what it did to Panguitch City when we had the Bryan Head fire. It was devastating, and they're into it millions of dollars right now trying to bring back their water system.
It used to be the only time the Forest Service and the state and the local communities got together is when the forest was on fire, and there'd be county crews and commissioners calling to your office or to your office to say, hey, we've got some resources, can we get them on the ground? That seemed to be the only time that coordination took place. And now it looks like we're looking at preventive things and creating a healthy environment so that we don't have to make those kinds of team decisions when there's smoke in the air.
Yeah, I truly believe this is a very different way to approach forest management. Not just in Utah, but shared stewardship is being looked at across the country. I agree with the commissioner, and it is beginning to happen. The conversation is broadening beyond my office and Nora, the state, and the Forest Service at the highest levels to really bring in local government. And it has to, because I agree with you, you all know what's best at that local level. But this is a different way of doing things. This whole notion of joint prioritization, shared decision making at the local level, that's completely different than what we've done in the past.
What are the resources that are coming together for this?
Every agency, surprisingly, although the Forest Service is much larger than, say, my state agency, we all have abilities and capacities that are slightly different, and when we combine those, we really can get more done. For example, our state contracting processes are far easier to work through than the federal contracting processes. So the Forest Service could convey money to the state. We use state contracting in order to get projects expedited. I also have the ability to hire far more easily than the Forest Service does, seasonal employees or temporary employees, say. Counties also have resources that we can bring to bear at the local level to get people hired and get them out on the ground doing these projects. It's really creative the way that we're talking.
So I think another part of that too is, so I said earlier, we can pool our money and decide how to spend the money on those projects. But the other thing then is, if we want to do a contract, would it be easier for Brian to do it? If we need to do some road maintenance, maybe the county has equipment, and so we'll provide funding to the county and they'll do the road maintenance so that we can then go do the timber sale or the fuels treatments. And so again, it's if we understand the problem collectively, and we each see what resources we have, then we can apply them to the problem.
Are we going to be at a place where we might even be looking at roads that would be developed for these projects specifically to get back into an area that needs treatment?
So we have to, so first of all, we're looking at our priority landscapes. And when you look at those landscapes and see a watershed that's at very high risk, then you look at that watershed and figure out how do we get that work done. And it may be accessing the areas through roads and doing fuels treatments or timber sales off of those roads. Sometimes we have to build temporary roads. We're also seeing logging equipment that we can use across the land without building a road. And so we're actually doing work in roadless areas to remove dead trees, to reduce the fuels without needing to build roads. So even the advances in logging are helping us access some areas without roads.
Excellent. Well, I think we're going to take a quick break here. We've talked about the procedures. How willing is the state to be a partner in this, Brian?
Oh, we're fully committed. We're all in. Yeah, this is a priority of the governor. Our agreement in Utah, it's signed by the governor and the secretary. You can't go much higher in government. We're fully committed.
Is this one of the first states to jump on this? Are you aware?
We are a leader, certainly. We weren't the first to sign the Shared Stewardship Agreement, maybe the third or fourth state, but we are certainly leading in how we are implementing Shared Stewardship.
Excellent. We will take a break from the county seat. We'll come back and we'll kind of delve into some of the details. I don't want to say get in the weeds, but that's kind of what we're going to do. We'll be right back on the county seat. Welcome back to the county seat. We are talking today about Shared Stewardship program that has been started at the state and has joined the U.S. Forest Service and state agencies together. We've swapped out Brian's. Brian Cottam is out. Brian Steed, his boss, is in, who is the head of Utah's DNR. Brian, thanks for joining us for this conversation.
You know, it's a real pleasure, and I'm glad we didn't go down on any Brians here. It's important that Brian quotient stays somewhere high, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very important. Where we're on the cusp of this discussion is the importance for local communities and how we're going to make this thing work. Because if we get engaged in a project and we change directions in 5 years, we probably haven't made a big enough dent in getting the backlog of maintenance and forests done to really do anything. Would you all agree with that assessment?
It's certainly a long-term commitment. The condition of our national forest is constantly changing, and it's just something we always need to pay attention to. And the work that needs to be done out there is not going to be done in a year or two. It's a long-term investment. And so being able to have this relationship over time is going to be really important.
And I'd say as well, there's certainly within my time, both working in the federal government and now here in the state, there's been a culture change about the willingness to really engage with these local partners and to make sure that the work gets done. And I think that there's a renewed recognition that we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. That those that live close to the forest are very concerned about the forest health. forest health is of great importance to the National Forest Service, and so working on those commonalities is a really big deal. And I think that culture shift, the success of shared stewardship is going to be based on how well we're able to sustain that culture shift over time.
Chad, I think it's important too that when we talked about longevity in this, I think it's important that we have something like a 20-year stewardship plan, that people know that we have that much work to do, and that people know they can invest and get something back from investing within the forest within that 20-year period.
In your home county, there was a mill that built on anticipation of having some of that longevity, and the longevity didn't appear. Some sales got canceled, and they ended up going out of business, and it was a loss of quite a few jobs.
It was 100 jobs right there in Escalante, and not to mention the mill that we lost in Panguitch over the years. And so 2 big mills that we've lost is a big hit for economic development for Garfield County, but also to maintain our forests. Our forests have become overgrown because of the loss of those mills.
Now, Nora, you were mentioning in the break that there are new technologies and there's a broader range of economic opportunity, because obviously this project's going to work better if the state and the federal government don't have to pay for all of this treatment, and there's actually a commercial, you can do timber sales and things like that. How's that going to play into this?
Well, it's an important component because we do need other people like timber sale companies that need fuel wood, post and poles, timber sale, saw logs. All those products can come off the national forest, and our work is going to produce a variety of products. So we really need industry that can respond to the variety of those products, and we're seeing that. We're seeing companies that can really build up their firewood business, that they distribute the firewood across the nation. Large dead trees for house logs. Mm-hmm. So there's a variety of products that come off the forest, and I think what's going to be important in the future is having a variety of industries and not just thinking we're going to go back to having only saw timber, large saw timber mills, because I don't think from a perspective, a national or international perspective, the market's going to play out that way. So we need to right size our economic opportunities to meet the needs here.
And Chad, if I can jump in on that point, I mean, I think that we've seen some real ingenuity in Utah. One of the things that we're seeing in Manti is chipping a lot of the wood for turkey bedding, and that's unique to a local economic opportunity, and that's awesome that you're able to use forest products to also meet those local economic needs off the Manti La Salle. And I think that's one of those types of activities that Nora's mentioning,
right,
that we need to seek for additional types.
How do we maximize making sure that we have those commercial partners at the table?
It's something that we've had in conversation with the Governor's Office of Economic Development to make sure that they're in the loop on making sure that there's sufficient people to actually do this work. The other thing that's kind of cool, and I don't know if Brian mentioned this when he was here before, but Brian Cottam has a background in rural economic development. It's the thing that drives him, and that he's very passionate about finding opportunities for those local industries and helping to incentivize people to get involved again. And I think that type of work from the state will certainly go a long ways to actually making sure that there's a market for the timber that we take off.
And that's why we need the longevity. We need to know that we have 20 years of stewardship, that we can build on that, and companies can invest, that they know that their investment will be protected over time.
Which is why it's really important that we identify these priority landscapes and we know where we want to work, and the work that we need to get done isn't going to get done in a year or two. So by identifying a watershed and knowing that there's going to take 5, 10, or 15 years to get that work done, then we can match up some type of industry with that work that then goes into these longer term contracts and lets them invest in the equipment they need to actually do that work over time.
And get a return on that investment.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And one more thing I think that we're interested in the state is that as large-scale timber operations have kind of gone away in the state, we really don't have the sawyers, we don't have the people that are chainsaw operators to go out and do it on the local basis. We'd be very interested in making sure that we have that part of the economy as well, so that someone is able to go out, and it doesn't have to be necessarily the Forest Service scratching their heads about who do we have that can do this work, rather that we have locals who are trained and are capable of doing it. I think that has some real benefits as well, because one of the things that we're seeking in shared stewardship is not only that timber product, but also a healthier forest and a healthier watershed. And I think that if we're able to combine all three of those things, we've got a surefire winner.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with finishing thoughts on this show. Very interesting conversation here on the County Seat. Welcome back to the County Seat. We are talking about shared stewardship and some other areas about making our forests more productive. How do we make sure that the state equally participates in this? What is the mechanism?
So that's a great question. A lot of people I know are concerned that this will be a Wasatch Front initiative. It's just not. Right now we have three projects currently ongoing. It is in the Wasatch, one's in the Mantell-LaSalle, and one's in the Dixie National Forest. When we project where these projects will be in the future, we have in all of the national forests across the state. In addition to that, every dollar that we spend on these localized projects for shared stewardship frees up other dollars through WRI or Watershed Restoration Initiative or other funds that we're able to use on those other areas. So I think it's just increasing the number of tools, and I think that we really are focused on making sure that the state as a whole gets the resources they need.
Jerry, are you confident that the counties can step up to this in the local communities and make this work?
Yes, I think we need to be a voice, and we need to work with the Forest Service and the state to make this happen. But we want to make it happen and make sure that we take care of our watersheds and our local communities. Small communities, large communities, we all need to take care of it.
If we are constantly taking these resources out of the forest and making good products from them, do we still end up with a healthier forest at the tail end of 20 years?
That's our goal. The national forests are very important. They're going to provide for us in the long term, and we have to work together to make that happen.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us here on the County Seat. I wish there was more time to talk about this topic because there are a lot of things that we still could cover on this, but at least we know that the forests and the local communities are matching up the way they have traditionally done in the past with some new and innovative ideas. We're looking forward to bringing an update to you somewhere later on in the year when some of these projects are up and running. We'll see you next week on the County Seat. Thank you for watching the County Seat. Be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications to keep up to date on the program and happenings around Utah.